Ladies and gentlemen, and non-binary folks, what's up everyone? It's your boy Ash here, and today I want to talk to you guys about the just announced Nintendo Direct that's gonna happen tomorrow. It's so cool. It's been quite a while since our last Nintendo Direct, and even though usually these kinds of speculations or quote-unquote leaks about Nintendo Directs coming up soon aren't that trustworthy or just generally aren't worth keeping up with, I had a feeling this one would be true, and guess what? It was. People were speculating there would be a new Nintendo Direct tomorrow on the Wednesday, and guess what? They were right because it just got announced, and I wanted to talk about it with you guys. Let's speculate a bit. Let's talk about what we could possibly see in this Direct. But if you guys want to see how I feel about the Direct itself when it happens, I'll be live here at YouTube at the scheduled time for the event, and you can experience this potentially awesome event alongside me. And I guess I'll see you there. Anyway, let's talk about the game announcements we could possibly see. First off, the Direct rumors themselves came along with some other rumors of potential games that would be coming alongside it, and these were a Super Nintendo game remake and a new 2D Mario game. As far as the 2D Mario game goes, I just hope it's not a new Super Mario Bros. Game like as part of the new Super Mario Bros. Series, because that series has gotten really repetitive, and we already have one of these on the Switch, and it's the same game as the Wii U one. I mean, doesn't matter, it's still the same freaking game. Either way, the series still very repetitive either way, and I would just hope that if we get a new 2D Mario, it's something more original. Do original worlds, do more themes, maybe do some different playable characters, a new art style. Imagine like a 2D hand-drawn art style, or maybe some pixel art, Sonic Mania-esque visuals. Even if it's like more of a actually 3D kind of game, because while New Super Mario Bros. Is kind of 3D, it doesn't really have depth in the models. Like even the Wii and the Wii U one, everything looks kind of plasticky and slightly flat. Maybe if they did something like the upcoming Sonic Superstars game, or something to that effect, we could get a more original looking 2D Mario game while still adhering to the general Mario aesthetic Nintendo really desperately wants us to adhere to. But yeah, my hope would be something a little more original than even that. As far as the SNES remake goes, I would hope it's maybe a new Fire Emblem remake, because I haven't played Fire Emblem 4, which is the one most people were expecting the new Fire Emblem game to be, because we already got an FE1 remake on the DS, we already got an FE2 remake on the 3DS with Echoes, and Fire Emblem 3 is just kind of an extension of Fire Emblem 1, and we got a remake of that as well on the DS, so the next one in line would be Fire Emblem 4, and it also has a lot of similarities thematically to Fire Emblem Three Houses, which was, I mean, it's no longer the latest Fire Emblem game since we got Gage last year. It is still very recent, and it kinda goes along pretty well with a possible Fire Emblem 4 remake. Recently, Fire Emblem Engage came out, but it actually finished development a good while ago, and we don't know what the developers have been cooking ever since. The game was actually finished around 2021, apparently, and they just decided not to release it back then, for whatever reason. So, in that meantime, they could have already been developing something else. And considering there's an SNES remake coming, that's the most obvious answer, or so you would think. Because a certain leaker that goes by the name Makomaro, he just tweeted out a mushroom emoji alongside a crown emoji, a turtle emoji, a cloud emoji, and a tree emoji. Now, this streaker doesn't have the most clean track record. He's gotten some things right, but not necessarily everything. And this could just be nothing. But considering these emojis and assuming this guy is right, this could potentially be a remake of Super Mario RPG. First Mario RPG all the way back on the SNES. It's a very, very, very good game. I played it on Virtual Console a ton, both on the original Wii as well as the Wii U, and it's a game that's weirdly missing from the Nintendo Switch Online program. It's just not there, it's just not playable there. And maybe that's because there's a remake coming, who knows? Now that game could be in a HD 2D art style, just like the Live Alive remake, as well as the upcoming Dragon Quest III remake. But that would mean the game would suffer a bit of a radical art style shift. Because while the original Mario RPG was kind of a 2D game, it used pre-rendered graphics just like Donkey Kong Country and some other revolutionary games for the time. It used sprites that basically were just pictures of 3D models, and that made the game look considerably more 3D-ish. And now I tried to picture an HD 2D remake of Mario RPG, and I just can't really see it. That game really, it didn't look like Octopath does. It didn't look like Live Alive. It didn't look like any of those games. If anything, it looked kind of like Donkey Kong Country again. And maybe a remake of Super Mario RPG would lean towards that and do more of a 3D kind of thing. You know, maybe kind of like the recent Yoshi games we've been getting. So Yoshi's Woolly World and Yoshi's Crafted World, where they have more of a toyetic, weirdly realistic, handmade art style. I think they could do something like that, where maybe the characters look a little bit like clay or something to that effect, because I can see them doing like a depth of field kind of thing. Maybe it's like the Link's Awakening remake. I think that art style would fit Mario RPG to a T. That game's models already kind of look a little toy-like, and that sort of visuals would just work really well, I think, for a potential remake, if it is true. Because we kind of have a Mario RPG-shaped gap in general going forward, because Mario and Luigi isn't really a thing anymore since the developers kind of went bankrupt a while ago by now, and Paper Mario just isn't an RPG series anymore. So either we'll eventually get a new Mario RPG series, or we'll not get Mario RPGs in general going forward, or maybe we'll get this remake. Who knows? Maybe this is a way to test the waters, to see if people are still interested in Mario games that are also RPGs in this post-Nintendo Switch era. Speaking of post-Nintendo Switch, I kinda have my concerns about this Direct, because people are speculating that the Switch is kind of in its late years, so to speak. It's pretty much dying off. People were expecting a new console to come out around next year, even. So, while we just got a new Zelda, I don't see any other big releases like it coming up anytime soon from Nintendo, unless it's for their big new next console. So I wouldn't really expect anything like a new 3D Mario, or yet another 3D Zelda, even though that's unrealistic either way because we just got another one just now. But what's a series that has another in the title of one of its names, and it also has had a Nintendo Switch title announced for a long while that's still not been released? That's right, Metroid. More specifically, we had Metroid Prime 4 announced all the way back in E3 2017, and it kind of got rebooted at around 2018, 2019, I believe, and we don't know how the development has been going ever since. We've been informed that it's been going fine, but it's a bit hard to believe considering how long it has been. The game's just stayed in the oven for a long time, and I'm afraid it's gonna get burnt. So I think this is probably the last chance the game has. Of course, we always expect Metroid Prime 4 to be in the next Nintendo Direct. because it's been announced so long ago, right? But I feel like probably this is the game's last chance to shine. It's either not coming to the Nintendo Switch, or like it's been cancelled, or it's been delayed to the next console, it's been pushed over to the next console, or it's gonna be shown in this direct, because I don't think we have that much time left. This is probably the last or second to last Nintendo Switch focused direct we'll get, like, ever, depending on how the next console shapes up. If it's gonna substitute the Switch fully, or if it's gonna be more of a gradual thing. So this is the game's chance. This is probably the last big 3D, big AAA game Nintendo's gonna make, and it's definitely about time. With that in mind, what could we see from a Metroid Prime 4? Well, back earlier this year, we actually got Metroid Prime Remastered, and, well, that game is effectively a remake of the original Metroid Prime. It's made by Retro Studios, who are supposedly the same guys that are working on the new Metroid Prime 4 ever since the development restarted on that. And I find it really hard to believe that they just dropped Prime Remastered without considering how Prime 4 would come out after it. So they probably have a little bit of like a roadmap going already. We're like, oh, we're gonna release Prime Remastered like earlier, 2023, and then we're gonna announce Prime 4, re-announce Prime 4 fully, so it can release either later that same year or maybe early in 2024. Because 2024 is probably the Switch's last year. And speaking of, I know that's a little bit extra and probably not what we're gonna get, but what if, and hear me out for a second here, what if we get anything on whatever Nintendo's next console is gonna be? So hear me out for a second. I know that sounds kind of preposterous. Nintendo Directs are not big enough for that kind of announcement, or at least it doesn't feel like it. But here's the thing. The Wii U, which is Nintendo's previous console before the Switch, it was announced at E3, right? And then the Nintendo Switch was announced in a random YouTube drop, even though it had a little bit of like a build-up to it. And this most likely would have been Nintendo's E3 presentation if E3 even existed anymore. So we didn't get E3 this year, but this Nintendo Direct that's going on in June, which is E3 month, is probably gonna contain what would have been announced in a potential Nintendo E3 Direct. And maybe we're gonna get just a little bit of information on a new console. It's weird because usually you would expect to see more rumors and information about whatever that new console is before the announcement. Usually there's a little bit of a build up to it, but you know, just as a crazy what if we get stuff on the new console, because it's a bit complicated. We're getting 40 minutes of stuff. It's mostly focused on Nintendo Switch titles coming this year, according to Nintendo of America. So what are they gonna have to show? A bunch of third-party games for sure? These potential smaller games alongside Metroid Prime 4 maybe? And then what else? Guess DLC, and we're gonna talk about that in a bit. But what if, hear me out here, they just drop a title or maybe mention, oh, we're working hard on our next console and you're gonna get more news on it this date or something to that effect, or this month, and show the month on screen or something. I think that could be possible. The console's really coming out in 2024. That would give us about a year to a year and a half to speculate on whatever that new console is really gonna be, so they can build up the marketing and all that good, interesting stuff. Let me know what you guys think. But yeah, before we close off, I just wanted to talk a bit about DLC, because that's something we know is coming, and that's something that we're for sure gonna see in this Direct. So my one single biggest bet as far as potential Direct news goes is that we're gonna get info on the Splatoon 3 DLC side order, because that was announced all the way back in the Direct earlier this year, and we still only really have a title. We know it's coming out soon, TM. And maybe it's time we get a cool, new, spunky-ass trailer just like we got with Octo expansion that was announced in the Nintendo Direct. So I can absolutely expect to see something related to that in tomorrow's presentation, as well as, and this is a little bit more of a risky bet, I'm guessing we could maybe see something about the Pokemon DLC, the Pokemon Scarlet Violet DLC, because that's coming later this year. Wave 1 is supposedly, in the works, being prepared to come out fairly soonish, and we still don't know that much about it. Well, Pokemon has kind of dropped Nintendo Directs for the most part, since they usually like to do their whole Pokemon presentation thing every year nowadays. I could still see them doing something about the DLC in this Direct, or showing something about this DLC, because I believe in 2020, when we were getting those smaller Directs every few months or so, they did show a bit of the Pokemon Sword and Shield DLC, and that's like the only instance of the words Nintendo Direct and Pokemon being the same sentence ever since we started getting those singular Pokemon presentations apart from Nintendo Directs. So, unless they're planning to do more Pokemon presentations in the future or just do random trailer drops, I don't see where else they could show stuff about the DLC, because they only really do those Pokemon presentations every year or so. So maybe they're just gonna show it off here. Maybe we're gonna see more about where the new mons we're getting, what's the new area we're exploring, what kind of story can we expect, because we've really only gotten some key art and a title. And I think it's about time we see more of that DLC. With that said, everyone, that's about it for today. I hope to see you guys tomorrow for the Nintendo Direct presentation, and let's wait for the best. But remember, hype responsibly. You never know when you could be a little bit too disappointed. Let's be excited, let's have some fun and enjoy this presentation, because we're gonna get some cool trailers. Take care of yourself, everyone, and see ya.
Hey, this is post-editing Ash here. Just saying that, what if we get a new Pokemon Mystery Dungeon? There's absolutely no evidence for it, but considering there's still no Gen 9 spin-offs, much less Gen 9 Mystery Dungeon games, they have a good chance here after the remake was hopefully successful. Please? Please!